I'm hoping we're going to get a view up here. All good?
All good.
Wow, check that out.
Look at that. Unbelievable. This glacier is attached to this massive ice field.
This is the tongue of it.
Yeah, the Harding ice field.
This is the largest ice field in the United States, covering 300 square miles. But it has shrunk an alarming 812 feet since 2008.
But the crazy thing is, when you took over as president, 2008,
Yeah,
that glacier was here.
yeah. That's
So
how much we've
that's
lost.
exactly, yeah.
Just in that short period of time. When you see this glacier, it gives you a sense of the magnitude of it. But what you're also reminded of is how far it's already receded, just since my presidency. And it underscores once again why it's so important for us to pay attention to climate change and understand that there's something that we can actually do about it.
Housing affordability has sunk to its lowest level in 3 decades.
You are the worst government we've ever seen.
The Australian dream is about people owning houses.
The Australian dream is dying. This idea of encouraging people to buy a house when you're young and accumulate wealth over time has made Australians the 4th richest people on earth. But their housing market is on fire. The median cost of a house doubled from under $500,000 in 2011 to nearly $1 million in 2024, and wages didn't keep up.
The skyrocketing cost of living.
I was skipping meals because I was struggling to afford my food and my rent.
2 million Canadians had to use a food bank in 1 month alone.
No wonder crime is rocketing after 8 years of Justin Trudeau.
Canada is worse than you think. Just 2 years ago, a simple 2-bedroom apartment in Toronto cost on average $2,400 Canadian dollars. Today, that's $3,300, an average increase of 25% per year. And that's not an outlier. You would need to earn at least double the minimum wage to afford a 1-bedroom apartment, and you can forget about buying. In major cities like Toronto and Vancouver, the minimum income that's required to qualify for a mortgage is double or triple the median household income. This makes buying even unattainable for the top 10% of earners. There is a housing crisis, a cost of living crisis.
ABC News, in collaboration with ABC-owned TV stations, has spent the last 6 months investigating the public and affordable housing crisis affecting cities and towns across the country. We found that for housing vouchers, which are local subsidies helping renters find homes on the private market, the average wait in San Diego County is 8 years. And for public housing, San Diego has the longest wait time of any large metro area in the U.S.
The wait list for public housing is over 18 years. Today, what we're seeing is a housing crisis unlike one that we've seen since the mid-20th century.
The lack of public and affordable housing is a widespread issue. Our analysis shows public housing wait times exceed 17 years in Suffolk County, New York, 9 years in Meeker County, Minnesota, and 6 years in Hinds County, Mississippi.
What are rich people living on if all their money is tied up in assets? Well, debt. Millions and millions of dollars of debt. Remember, buy, borrow, die. We've covered buy, now we're on to borrow. Let's check back in with our pretend rich guy, Paul. Paul has a stock portfolio worth around $1 billion, and one day he decides to buy a new home that costs, I don't know, $50 million bucks? Paul could easily sell $50 million of stocks to pay for the house outright. And for a lot of us, that scenario sounds like the American dream, having the cash on hand to cover a major purchase in full and walking away owing nothing to no one. But remember, turning $50 million worth of stocks into $50 million that can be used to buy a home would cost an additional 20% in capital gains taxes. Not to mention, Paul would then lose control of those stocks, which may have gained exponential value had he just held on to them a little bit longer. So Paul decides to keep his stocks and instead takes out a $50 million loan to buy that house, using his billion-dollar stock portfolio as collateral. Now, because Paul's net worth is many times greater than the value of the loan, whatever bank he approaches will not only be super confident that he'll be able to pay them back in full, but they'll be extremely eager to win his business. Ultra high net worth individuals like Paul are highly coveted clients, and banks roll out the red carpet to keep them happy. Note that I said clients, not customers. Customers call a 1-800 number when they need help. Clients have their personal banker's home phone number. Some perks an ultra-wealthy borrower might enjoy include not having a deadline to pay down their principal, meaning that as long as Paul keeps paying interest on the loan, the bank will be happy to float that $50 million indefinitely. Again, because they're that confident that they could recoup the money if and when they really needed to. And speaking of interest, let's talk about the interest rate. Because if you were a regular customer, first of all, you'd never be able to access a loan for $50 million, but second of all, y'all, you're probably looking at interest rates anywhere from 9 or 10% up to maybe 20 to 25%, depending on the institution you're trying to get the loan from. Our friend Paul, on the other hand, might be able to negotiate an interest rate as low as 1%. According to the Wall Street Journal, in 2021, clients with $100 million or more could get interest rates as low as 0.87% at Merrill Lynch. And this feels really counterintuitive for us schmucks down here who are worth less than hundreds of millions of dollars. Anyone who's part of the lower or middle class has been conditioned pretty much from birth to feel like debt is bad. And you are bad if you have it, and you should feel guilty. Not so for the uber wealthy, because consider this. By leaving his stocks alone, Paul avoids paying the capital gains tax and gives those stocks more time to continue growing. Historically, the stock market has increased by about 11% every year. So if Paul owes 1% a year on the $50 million loan, but then makes 11% on the $50 million of stocks that he didn't sell as they continue sitting in the stock market, at the end of the year, Paul will have netted 10% free and clear, adding $5 million to his net worth tax-free. Even better, the loan payments Paul makes on his house are likely tax deductible, reducing his bill even further. So by taking out the loan instead of selling the stock, Paul gets his $50 million house, keeps control of his growing stocks, avoids paying capital gains tax, continues earning 11% on those stocks year over year, and gets to write off his loan payments, all because he started out being wealthy enough to pull it off. The easiest way to stay wealthy is to start wealthy.